Living Longer, Living Better is your television magazine highlighting lifestyles, hobbies, sports, health, travel, people, and places in our community, and much more. Information, ideas, and knowledge that will encourage new thinking and provide insights into our community. Plus, sharing fun activities of all types, understanding options for financial well-being, and making life more enjoyable. Join us on the journey exploring the many facets of living longer, living better.
If you remember, when many young men actually knew how to tune up vehicles or even build a custom or hot rod automobile, when turning a wrench or a screwdriver was part of what you learned from your father. If you do remember, you'll enjoy this beautiful example of a classic Deuce Highboy hot rod. Part 1 will take you through the story of this hot rod and how the new owner found this magnificent machine and the efforts to make the vehicle what it is today. Other parts will take you through the interesting details that make this gorgeous Highboy Roadster the envy of many hot rodders.
Jim, this is just a spectacular representation of a 32 Highboy Ford Roadster.
That it is.
And you got to tell me a little bit about the history of this piece of beautiful machinery.
Well, I have to give credit to Dick Neese. Dick lives in Lindsay, California. He's an orchard man, whatever they call that in California.
Farmer, maybe.
Farmer.
Yeah.
Built the car back in the period 79 through 82. It was barned late 90s, thereabouts, early 2000.
Now, wait a minute. This isn't one of those classic barn stories, is it?
Pretty close. Dick's hip was going, it's got a clutch, it was getting harder to drive. So it got put away, and I ran across it. We'd been searching for it. There'd been rumors that this car existed in the valley. And a good friend and I had been many, many trips down the Central Valley, stopping in auto parts stores and the like. We're directed to Dick one day and met him. And he was candidly reluctant to sell, and I was eager to buy.
Well, this was his baby.
This was his baby, and I will tell you, it was emotional the day we drove away with it, for him and me both. I had looked for it since I was 17, and it was his first hot rod.
Oh, man, that's quite the story, isn't it?
He's in his late 80s, and I send him updates regularly.
Well, you told me a little bit, one comment about the story, because he was very reluctant, and he told you never mind, and then...
I had made him an offer and wrote a number on a business card and said it was the best I would be able to do, and it went into a drawer with many, many other offers, which was discouraging at the moment. And I finally said to him on the way out the door, Dick, if you ever sold a car, what would you sell it for? And he said, well, what I have in it. And I guess because I'm now 70 years old, I can say things I want. I said, well, you're a damn fool. And we got into our car and we drove away. And about 20 minutes later, my cell phone rang. And Dick asked me what I meant by that. And I kind of figured I'd upset him. And I told him that it was worth far more than he had in it. And he should face that. And he was silent for a very long time, made me very nervous. Thought I didn't mean to offend him. He's a wonderful man. And he said, come get your car.
Well, you know, sometimes the children have to go to a good new family. So you were the benefactor of that.
He said I was the first guy that told him the truth, that everyone had tried to beat him down. And he was also concerned that I wasn't going to flip it, because quite frankly, I could have flipped it that day for probably as much as I paid for it.
Well, he knew you cared.
It's not for sale, you know, and I make sure he knows that on a regular basis. I send him updates.
Well, we'll have to send him this video.
That might or might not please him.
Well, because it was his baby, and now you're going to tell us all about it. I think he'll appreciate it. And you've done a few things yourself to make it even a more beautiful baby.
Well, he had kept it pretty basic. He would drive it into town for lunch. Fundamentally, he had it, as best I could tell, about 19 years on the road and about 900 miles a year total. So not a lot of miles.
Yeah, it was kind of a Sunday car, maybe a parade car. But you've told me you've been some places with this car.
We did. We spent 6 months with wiring and fuel and all the normal things that you do for a car that's been sitting for a while. Solid mechanically, but some cosmetic. A lot of hours on the paint. Many hours. That paint went on in 1979 or 1980. And then for his maiden voyage, we went to the Golden Gate Bridge, 3 of us with 2 of my cars. And our end spot was 2 weeks later in Rye, New Hampshire. The other car lost parts along the way. This car didn't so much as hiccup.
Oh, beautiful. And you got a lot of people across America very jealous, I'm sure.
Well, we hit Dearborn. Really, that was the intent. It was the 75th anniversary of the 32 Ford, and Detroit's my home.
Oh, powerful. Yeah.
So we went to the 75th anniversary gathering at Ford Motor in Detroit and met with all the other 32 owners that got that far. It was interesting that we had come the greatest distance, and no one really cared because that's what you do.
Yeah. Well, that's just one of the key awards in any kind of rendezvous like that. And when you come the greatest distance and you still take away trophies, that's when they really get angry.
Well, we had no prizes. That was a gathering of believers. We had Mr. Mullally, the then and current chairman of Ford, address us as a private group. Acknowledge something that most people miss. These are the true Ford loyalists when you're still driving their cars 75 years later. Now, granted, we do butcher some awfully nice old cars, so we're not terribly popular with the restoration crowd. I've seen a lot of cars I'd love to butcher.
Well, you know, that was the rule for some time, but I guess it would be, and can't be precise about this, but maybe 8 years ago, Pebble Beach, the Concours d'Elegance, was started to feature hot rods and has done so every year since. So I think the days of the purist versus the hot rodder, there's a little more of an amalgamation of the caring for these beautiful automobiles.
Perhaps, but the backstory on that is that Bruce Myers spent years petitioning for that. He made the single point that the American hot rod is the only true, pure American folk art. There is no other, if you would, equivalent globally. So his thesis was, it's American folk art. It is easily in the same category as the big brass and the like, but he fought for years to get them in. So there's a lot of effort went into that.
Well, I'm sure, because I've had a little car experience myself, and the purists don't repaint it, don't do anything, and I can't tell you that at Pebble Beach I've seen too many of those ragtag, oh, this is perfectly original, and everybody swoon over it. There's still something beautiful about sparkling paint, beautiful chrome.
I had a 32 that when I acquired it, I left it that way. I drove it that way. It was a blown flathead. The whole idea was leave it alone. It needed a ton of work. It ran down the road beautifully, so we left it alone. So I will go both ways on that.
All right, so you've got a foot in each camp. You're a good man.
I've tried not to offend.
Come back again to learn more of the interesting details of Jim's magnificent Deuce Roadster. Each part of the Deuce Roadster Remember When series will appear on the Lifestyles for You website, lifestylesforyou.com. This Lifestyles website also features information on other exotic vehicles, arts, yachts, fashion, equestrian events, wines and spirits, vacation properties, and much more. Lifestylesforyou.com.
Today, Sotheby's International Realty, bringing new technology to a 200-year-old tradition, while serving the San Francisco Peninsula, Silicon Valley, and clientele worldwide.
Bobbie Decker is a realtor that cares about community. Few things say more about Bobbie's commitment than her support of many of our local charities.
One of my favorite things to do is to give back to nonprofits that are in our communities. Peninsula Humane Society, which takes care of our furry little friends, making sure none of them are abandoned. To Career Closet, which makes sure that the women who go there are outfitted with clothes so that they can get jobs. To College Track, which ensures that the students are not forgotten halfway through their college career. They have enough money to actually finish. And then there's Build, which helps miniature entrepreneurs become big entrepreneurs. All of it's giving back to nonprofits that make a difference, and that makes me feel good. I'm here at the Circus Club for the Menlo Charity Horse Show, which benefits the center, Vista Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And I'm with Steve Silver, who's Steven Silver Fine Jewelry. And I must say, you can make a girl look really good even in a white shirt.
Those look really good on you.
Do explain what they are.
Well, this is a match, well actually it's not match pair. We have a 3-carat oval on one side and we've got a 3-carat pear shape on the other. And they're both D colors. One's flawless and one's a VVS1, which are very, very fine stones. Above it, there are 4-carat each trapeze cuts, then an octagon cut above that. So we tried to do something very modern, a little bit avant-garde, definitely not traditional. It's for something that is totally off our charts normally. So we were definitely outside the box on this one.
Well, I can tell you they're stunning.
Thank you. Well, the piece was made by what I consider to be our finest metalsmith, one of the great jewelers in America, who does a lot of very, very fine work for our company. And so there's a lot of attention paid to the detail in making something like this.
So, Steve, you were mentioning your biggest challenge right now is what?
Well, the biggest challenge for any jewelry business, especially companies that specialize in high-end, one-off manufacturing, is to find and develop great talent. The skill set that existed at the beginning of the 20th century, because of how the industry developed skills inside our industry, has eroded over time. So developing and finding and developing talented young people to be able to learn these processes and manufacturing techniques that existed then, also incorporating new techniques that are modern techniques, which also has had a big impact recently, is the biggest challenge for any company like ours. So and to be able to do it inside the United States is also another challenge too, because we're under a lot of pressure with manufacturing techniques and being developed overseas with lower labor costs and et cetera. So that's our biggest challenge, is how to keep that skill set elevated, continuing to develop it, manufacturing jewelry at the highest level. Creating this beautiful artistic statement that we're trying to do. Those are big challenges.
Bobbie Decker is an award-winning veteran of the real estate industry. She has assisted hundreds of clients in Northern California to buy and sell properties successfully, as well as educating the public via her television, web, and/or newspaper articles.
As a former high school teacher of biology, my students' success was my #1 priority. Now, as a real estate broker, educating and informing my clients and readers and viewers is my new priority.
Welcome to the 56th annual Hillsborough Concours d'Elegance. This year, they're featuring the beautiful Cadillac and the gorgeous Rolls-Royce, two luxury marquees that represent just the finest in automotive history. We, of course, have the American variety being the Cadillac and the English variety being the Rolls-Royce. That's not the only marquee type that we'll see here today. There are cars from yesteryear right up until today. So let us take you on a tour and let us visit the beautiful Hillsborough Concours d'Elegance. What really happens here at these events is these cars come in and are fully judged for complete functionality. So this is a 1931 Bentley, and they've gone through the headlights to see if the high beams and the low beams work. They've checked the brakes. They've listened to the motor run. They checked the directionals that these cars actually had back in those days. So this is a beautiful, beautiful piece of machinery. And as you can see, the horn works. Of course, everything is tested right up to the horn. Ivan, this is a beautiful, beautiful Bentley, and I saw the judges, so we were watching the judges, so you have to watch the judges very carefully. They're looking for every possible flaw they can find, rather than seeing how perfect this car is. Tell us more about this car.
This car is a custom coach-built Harold Radford Countryman Saloon, and this was one of 9 cars that were built by Harold Radford. It's an all-aluminum bodied car, which was extremely rare because Radford used to do a lot of custom conversions to the standard steel bodied cars. But he only built a handful of the full-bodied Radfords, this being one of them. And of the 9 cars that were built, this was the only one. This is a one-off. The other 8 that were built with this body style were all hatchbacks, which meant that the rear seats would fold down. And the reason he built them as hatchbacks is because English taxes in the 50s were so high, it was almost a third of the cost of the car, that if the car had at least 9 cubic feet of cargo space, they could pass them off as commercial vehicles.
Oh, perfect.
Exempt of the taxes.
I know how that works. I have a Jaguar XJS where they put back seats in it. You can't put a person in the back seats, but because of insurance reasons, when you put the seats in, it's not a sports car anymore. So I get that.
So this is typically what happened. But this one, when he built it for a school chum of his by the name of E.G. Bailey, who was the president of the Hartford Syndicate Limited Company in England. And Radford's parents and Bailey's parents were very, very close. And so there were a lot of touches that were done on this particular car that were not done on any of the other Radfords.
Nice to be a friend of the designer of the car. It would sound like both the hatchback approach and aluminum were probably pretty progressive in its day. Is that true?
Most of the custom coach builders would build our cars in aluminum because it was easy to work, easy to hammer, and style the bodies that they were doing. That wasn't unusual, but what was unusual about Radford's cars is he built so few of them that it was very, very rare to have a full-bodied Radford, because he was more into converting other cars and doing custom stuff to cars. He was involved with doing the seats to the GT40 originally, and he would do things like custom gun racks and fishing pole carriers on the cars, and he would extend the boot in the event that you weren't happy with your boot. He would actually extend the whole back end of the cars on steel-bodied cars. So he was doing a lot of custom work, but not so much into full-bodied cars.
Okay. So thank you. I'm learning a lot of things here. So how about let's go through some of the precious details that you've got with this car.
Yeah, the reason I brought you on this side of the car is because of the unique lines that this car has on the outside. If you notice that the lines carry to the rear fender, and then it carries again on the rear spat, which is a very, very unique detail in the way of the car. The car also, if you notice this sideline, he also carries the same sideline on the interior upholstery on the door panels. So if you look at the front and the rear door panels, this same sweeping line is also on the door panels as well. The car also has a little cubby compartment which has a folding beveled glass mirror in it, chrome framed, and the car came equipped with an electric shaver that actually plugs into the front of the dash. That was part of the custom coach work that he did. And on this particular one, it also has full twin bucket seats, where some of the other Radfords were basically bench seat. They were very, very plain. This has a tuck and roll. The rear seats, being very common, has the eating trays in there, but it also has little folding mirrors so the ladies could do their makeup in the back. It came with, again, all custom handles that were all made out of brass, chrome plated, and then the ashtrays. The car also came equipped with front power windows, which was very rare in 1951. And that was done just on the front doors. Because of the size of the motors and the limit switches, they couldn't put it into the rear doors, so the rear doors remained crank-ups. And what else? Of course, it's got folding armrests in the back, and the car also has sunroof, which was common for the Mark 6s, but so the differences on this one and the fact that it was a one-off is the whole back end when he built this, because of the fact that the body in the rear was different because of the hatchback scenario. He had to rebody the back end on this to incorporate what was a standard boot. And the standard boot now also incorporated a slide-out picnic table with this fancy woodwork in the back. It also has a 3-bottle wine rack, which is in one of the compartments on the left here. And all the fancy woodwork that...
How about if we just shoot you taking a look at the different elements here, and I'll hold the microphone for that, because I saw when the judges came by just how beautiful all the elements of this are.
We have the tools here, and then this houses this sliding table, which I'm restoring this year, and that basically slides into the compartment here, and this closes down. The 3-bottle wine rack is in here. I'm also restoring the that right now as well, so it's non-showable at this point. So, and then this is just a compartment that allows you to get to the lights to be able to service them if you need to.
What extraordinary craftsmanship for those days. It doesn't seem like we have those kind of craftsmen around anymore, but it's wonderful to see this iteration that's so unique and so beautiful.
So this car was, of all the Radfords built, the most expensive of the Radfords. It sold for 7,266 pounds back in '51, which I believe at the time was close to about $20,000, which would have bought you a couple homes on the peninsula here. So it was really an expensive car.
Well, Ivan, thank you. This is so beautiful. We've really enjoyed your tour here. One little last question. Who did all the restoration work?
I did about 90% of the restoration myself. So was done by San Carlos Industrial Plating, and that was about it. So.
All right, just to show the level of passion, how many years invested in this restoration so far by you?
11 and a half years to get it to this point, and I'm still working on her.
Thanks, Ivan. That goes to show the passion that you have to have when you've got these beautiful pieces of machinery. Thank you so much.
Today, Sotheby's International Realty, bringing new technology to a 200-year-old tradition while serving the San Francisco Peninsula, Silicon Valley, and clientele worldwide.